Welcome to I Love Literature, and you're listening to Beau Tibbs by Oliver Goldsmith in English. Now, this is a line by line explanation of Beau Tibbs in English. It is for those students who do not understand Hindi. Now, let me tell you something about Oliver Goldsmith. The first thing is you should always remember, as a student of BA, that Oliver Goldsmith belonged to Augustan age. Now, what kind of age is Augustan age? It is 18th century of England. He lived in the 18th century of England, and in this essay, Beau Tibbs, which was taken from his The Citizen of the World, he showcases the kind of society was that time, the kind of society he lived in that time, the kind of society, the kind of English society was in that time. So, when we will read this essay, you will come to know that what kind of people were there in English society. Now, he has written this with the help of a mouthpiece, a Chinese traveler, Lin Chi Atlangi. Now, you should remember that this entire essay is written by Lin Chi Atlangi. He is Oliver Goldsmith's mouthpiece. This is what you should remember. Why did he do that? I think Oliver Goldsmith did this to be comfortable. He wanted himself to be comfortable while writing this. That doesn't mean that in reality some Chinese traveler came to write it. No, it didn't happen. It was written by Oliver Goldsmith, but in order to show this to English people who will read this, he just wanted to create this fact in their mind that it is written by a Chinese traveler who traveled to England to observe the kind of English society that was there in England. Now, let me start with it. Beau Tibbs. Now, this is not Beau, it is Beau. Beau means fashionable, somebody who is fashionable. So, one thing we have come to know about this essay is Beau Tibbs is a fashionable man of 18th century England. Now, let's move ahead. Now, let's look at the essay. Here, the writer says, though naturally pensive, yet I am fond of gay company and take every opportunity of thus dismissing the mind from duty. Though naturally pensive, though naturally, what kind of man is he? Serious. Though naturally he is a serious kind of man who keeps on thinking and who is very thoughtful. Yet I am fond of gay company, but I am fond of good company, jolly company, and take every opportunity. I take every opportunity of thus dismissing the mind from duty. So, whenever I get time to enjoy in my life, I do. I dismiss the mind. He dismisses his mind from duty. Duty means his work, whatever he has to do. From this motive, I am often found in the center of a crowd. So what happens that because I want to take rest, I want to enjoy gay company, what I do, I am often found in the center of a crowd. So he likes to meet people. He likes to meet he likes to go in the crowd, in public places, and wherever pleasure is to be sold, I am always a purchaser. He says, wherever I can find pleasure, there you will find me, and I am a purchaser of pleasure. In those places, in which places? Wherever there is a center of a crowd, in those places, without being remarked by any, I join in whatever goes forward. work my passions into a similitude of frivolous earnestness. So what does he do in those places, like in public places, without being remarked by any? Nobody has to tell me, nobody has to say anything about me. I join in whatever goes forward. Whatever is happening there, I will do that. Work my passions. Work my passions means, what do you mean by passion here? Whatever you love, work my hobbies out, whatever I love to do, into a similitude of frivolous earnestness. So here writer says that I do those similar things which are amusing in earnestness. Earnestness means seriously. I enjoy so much that company that I do all those frivolous earnestness. Frivolous means amusing and earnestness means seriously. Shout as they shout. So what does he do? If people are shouting, he will also shout, and condemn as they happen to disapprove. If they are disapproving something, if they don't like something, I also condemn. I also do not speak so good about it, and I also start complaining about it. A mind thus sunk for a while below its natural standard is qualified for stronger flights. So this is important. Here writer says a mind thus sunk for a while. For some time you take your mind away from your duty below its natural standard. Natural standard, how our mind is naturally, it's very logical. It applies logic everywhere. But then you have to sometimes forget logic in your life so that you can enjoy life. Sometimes you should laugh for no reason. Sometimes you should enjoy for no reason. Okay, if you become too practical, you will become too boring. So here writer says, a mind thus sunk for a while below its natural standard is qualified for stronger flights. So it takes stronger flights. The mind gets more refreshed, and then, you become more charged up to do your work for the next day or to complete your task. It actually takes away your tiredness. That's what writer says here. As those first retire who would spring forward with greater vigor. So he says people who do not take rest, who just spring forward, go forward with great vigor. Vigor means energy. Who just moves on with great energy. What happens with them? Those first retire means they retire early. So here writer is trying to build a mood. What kind of mood? That please relax, enjoy whatever I am enjoying, you also enjoy. I am going to a public place where if I find people laughing, I will laugh. If I find people condemning somebody, disapproving somebody, I will also do. And this is important also for us to talk about silly things so that our mind relaxes, so that we can bring our mind below its natural standard, so that we get charged up to become successful in our life. After that, writer says, attracted by the serenity of the evening. Now he has gone out. Serenity means with calmness and peacefulness of the evening. My friend and I lately went to gaze upon the company in one of the public walks near the city. So they went to one of the public places, parks you can say, to gaze upon, to look upon the company. They went to enjoy evening. It's good to take some time off. Here we sauntered together for some time. So what did they do? Here they just walked idly, slowly walking. They walked for some time, either praising the beauty of such as were handsome, or the dresses of such as had nothing else to recommend them. So they started looking at people, they started talking about them, their dressing sense, mostly their dressing sense. They were praising people who were handsome, they were talking about their dresses. Now what happens? We had gone thus deliberately forward for some time, when stopping on a sudden my friend caught me by the elbow. So we had gone thus deliberately. Okay, so knowingly they were moving forward for some time, when stopping on a sudden my friend caught me by the elbow. So his friend stopped him. Okay, his friend, the friend with him, he went to those public walks. He caught him by his elbow and stopped him and led me out of the public walk. So he took him out of that place. Okay, I could perceive by the quickness of his pace and by his frequently looking behind that he was attempting to avoid somebody who followed. So what he was trying to do here, that man was trying to, his friend was trying to avoid somebody who was following them. By quickness of his pace, the way he was walking faster, okay, his brisk walking made him understand that, okay, he's trying to avoid somebody. We now turned to the right, then to the left as we went forward. So they tried their best by avoiding that person. He still went faster, but in vain, but of no use. Okay, going faster was of no use. The person whom he attempted to escape hunted us through every doubling. So the person whom he was trying to escape, he was trying to avoid, that person was running after him, was running more faster behind him and gained upon us at each moment, and he was coming closer and closer to us, so that at last we fairly stood still. So what happened? At last they stood still. They realized that now no use running away, resolving to face what we could not avoid. Now they realized that, okay, we can't avoid him, let's face him, let's see what happens. Our pursuer came up and joined us with all the familiarity of an old acquaintance. So the way he spoke, that Chinese traveler realized that, okay, he knows he is an old acquaintance. He already knows my friend, my dear dry bone. Okay, so now he talks to his friend who was trying to avoid him. My dear dry bone, cries he, shaking my friend's hand. Where have you been hiding this half a century? Positively, I had fancied you were gone down to cultivate matrimony and your estate in the country. So here that person says that, my dear dry bone, half a century, where were you? For half a century, for 50 years. Positively, I had fancied you were gone, and I thought that you have gone to your hometown, you have got married, and you are taking care of your estate in your village. During the reply, I had an opportunity of surveying the appearance of our new companion. Now, what happens? This man, the one who was running after dry bone, he was actually asking him these questions, and meanwhile this our Chinese travel got the chance to look at this peculiar man. So what happened? He looks at them, he surveys the appearance of this man. His hat was pinched up with peculiar smartness. What do you mean by peculiar? Peculiar means with strange smartness. His looks were pale, thin. He was pale. He was not that bubbly looking. He was pale, he was thin and sharp. Round his neck he wore a broad black ribbon. That's what he was wearing. And his bosom a buckle studded with glass. His coat was trimmed with tarnished twist. Trimmed here means it was, you can say, decorated with tarnished. Tarnished means dirty twist. He wore by his side a sword with a black hilt, so he was also wearing a sword, and his stocking of silk, he was wearing silk stocking, though newly washed, were grown yellow by long service. So that shows something is wrong with this man. He is wearing silk stocking, but they are not so new. That means something is wrong with this man. I was so much engaged with the peculiarity, that means strangeness of his dress, that I attended only the later part of my friend's reply, in which he complimented Mr. Tibbs. So he was so engrossed, he was so busy looking at him that he could not notice what his friend replied to him, but he just got the later part of the conversation where he said, which he complimented Mr. Tibbs on the taste of his clothes, and he said, wow, what a nice dressing sense, and the bloom in his countenance. Here bloom doesn't means that he is glowing, because already we have read that he was pale, thin. Okay, so here bloom means his confidence, and he complimented him for his confidence. So what happens, as he was complimenting this man, Tibbs said, "Sure, sure, will," cried the figure. "No more of that if you love me. You know I hate flattery." So this man who has come so smartly dressed says that I don't like flattery. Please, I hate flattery. On my soul, I do. Yes, I do. I really hate flattery. And yet, to be sure, an intimacy with the great will improve one's appearance. But I tell you that if you are intimate with great people, like if you're intimate with rich people, it will definitely it will improve your appearance, the way you look. A course of venison will fatten. A course of venison means venison is meat, deer meat, and he says that that will also fatten. And yet have faith in me. I despise, I hate the great as much as you do. I hate the great. I hate those great, means I hate those royal aristocrat people as much as you do. But there are great many damned honest fellows among them. But there are so many honest people also among them, and we must not quarrel with one half because the other wants. I think this should not be weeding. Let me check what it is. So it is not weeding, it's breeding. So he says we must not quarrel with one half because the other wants breeding. We should not quarrel with those people, with some good people, because others, they lack. Wants means they lack breeding. They do not have good breeding. They do not have good manners. Because of that, we cannot avoid some of those good people in aristocracy. If they were all such as Lord Muddler, one of the most good-natured creatures that even squeezed a lemon. So he says that this royal man, this aristocrat, Lord Muddler, it's such a good creature, is one of those good creatures who even squeezed a lemon. He does even those small things which these people are not entitled to do, which these people are not supposed to do. I should myself be among the number of their admirers. So he says, I also admire such aristocrat people. I was yesterday to dine at the Duchess of Piccadilly. Now, see, he's talking big things. He's talking about his lifestyle, that how do he move with these people, move around these people. And yesterday he was to dine with the Duchess of Piccadilly. Then what happened? My lord was there. He says this Lord Muddler was there, and he said, "Ned," says he to me. "Ned," says he. See, he's stressing. He's telling us again and again that he addressed me by my nickname. That means he was so close to me. "I will hold gold to silver. I can tell you where you were poaching last night." So he says, "I will bet you, I can tell you where you were poaching last night." "Poaching, my lord," says I. "Faith, you have missed already. For I stayed at home and let the girls poach for me. That's my way. I take a fine woman as some animals do their prey, stand still, and swoop, they fall into my mouth." So now, you know what is poaching. Poaching means killing of animal, but then here they are not talking about killing of animal. Here they are talking about women, Here, actually, they are talking about that how they flatter a woman, and that's what he means here. And then this man says that I am never behind the girl, and I don't do those love making, and I don't run after girls. It's just girls run after me, girls poach for me, and that's my way. And how do I do this? I take a fine woman as some animals do their prey, and I just stand still. I don't have to put much effort for catching a girl for me. They just fall into my mouth. That's how he is showing off that how much in demand he is among women. Now here a writer says, "Ah, Tibbs, thou art a happy fellow," cried my companion. So here Chinese man's friend says that you are so happy, you are actually a happy fellow, with looks of infinite pity. So this man, his friend, spoke with so much of infinite endless pity on his face, and he said, "I hope your fortune is as much improved as your understanding in such company." He is actually mocking him and asking him that I think you have become as rich as your company. Okay, like you are moving in the company of these aristocrat people, so I think your fortune is also as aristocrat as your company. "Improved," replied the other. "You shall know, but let it go no further. A great secret. 500 a year to begin with. My lord's word of honor for it. His lordship took me down in his own chariot." Now this is how he is talking about it and then ignoring it. He is trying to say that my fortune is a great secret and I don't want to reveal it. And then he reveals a little bit, 500 a year, that he might be making 500 a year to begin with. And then he says, forget it. He changes his topic and he says, "My lordship took me down in his own chariot yesterday. We had a teta dinner in the country." So he says he had teta dinner in the country where we talked of nothing else. So his lordship actually took him with him in his own chariot, and then they had a tete means very private conversation they had. "I fancy you forgot, sir," cried I. Now here speaks our Chinese traveler, and he says, "You told us but this moment of your dining yesterday in town." So earlier he said that I was dining in the town. So here somewhere he said that he was dining in the town. He said yesterday to dine at the Duchess of Piccadilly. I was yesterday to dine at the Duchess of Piccadilly. So he says I was dining with Duchess of Piccadilly. Then he says that his lord took him for dinner in his chariot. Where is it? Okay, his lordship took me down in his own chariot yesterday, and he had a tete dinner in the country. So where we talked of nothing else. So here this man, our Chinese traveler, speaks in between and says that, interrupts him by saying, "You told us but this moment of your dining yesterday in town. You were down, whether you were dining in the town or you were dining in the country, tell me, did I say so?" So here this Tip says, "Did I say so?" replied he coolly. "To be sure, if I said so, it was so dined in town. Egged means I swear. Now I do remember, I did dine in town, but I dined in the country too." So he says that I dined at both the places. He is lying. Okay, for you must know, my boys, I eat 2 dinners. So this pale man is eating 2 dinners. By the way, I think it should be by the way, I am grown as nice as the devil in my eating. He's saying that I'm eating too much nowadays. I will tell you a pleasant affair about that. We were, now he is, making another story. We were a select party of us to dine at Lady Grogram's. So, selected people only were, invited to dine at this lady's place. An affected piece, but let it go no further a secret. Again, he doesn't want to talk about it. He's a showy man. He's showing himself off. Well, there happened to be no asafoetida in the sauce of a turkey. So he's telling there was no asafoetida, there was no, in Hindi it is hing, there was no hing in that sauce of a turkey dish. Upon which, says I will hold 1,000 guineas and say, done first that. But dear Drybone, so he's shifting from one topic to another, and then he says, you are an honest creature. Lend me half a crown for a minute or two or so, just till. So now see, he is asking him some money, just half a crown he's asking him. Such a rich man, who is having dinner at two places, who is moving with aristocrat people, he doesn't have a half a crown. He's running after somebody, a layman, asking for half a crown. So this is a satire of that society. Here Oliver Goldsmith is actually showing us through his mouthpiece that Augustan society of 18th century, was not a real society. Those people were not genuine people, they were, the society was actually degrading. So that's what he tells us here. But haki means listen, ask me for it. So here Tibbs says, ask me for it the next time, ask me your money the next time we meet, or it may be 20 to 1, I forget to pay you. So he says, I might forget to pay you, but then you ask me when I meet you next time. When he left us, our conversation naturally turned upon so extraordinary a character. So this extraordinary character, actually such a base character, his very dress, cries my friend, is no less extraordinary than his conduct. So here that friend says to Chinese traveler that, as you observed his dress, which was extraordinary, similarly he is also very extraordinary in his conduct. If you meet him this day, you find him in rags, if the next in embroidery. So he's saying, today you might find him in rags, tomorrow you might find him in good clothes. With those persons of distinction of whom he talks so familiarly, he has scarce a coffee house acquaintance. So, he is meeting those people. He is just looking at seeing those people in coffee house. It's not that he actually knows. He is claiming familiarity with those people, but actually he is not familiar with those people. However, both for the interests of society and perhaps for his own, heaven has made him poor. So he says, it is in the good interest of society that he is poor, and in his own interest also that heaven has made him poor. And while all the world perceives his wants, all the world knows that he lacks subsistence, he lacks money, he doesn't have money, he fancies them concealed from every eye, and he wants to conceal it. He thinks that people don't know that he is a poor man, people don't know that he is not a real aristocrat or a rich man. So that's what he's concealing, means hiding. An agreeable companion, because he understands flattery. And all must be pleased with the first part of his conversation. So he says that he looks like an agreeable companion, and it seems that people will get flattered by him, by his conversation, though all are sure of its ending with a demand on his purse and with the demand on their purse. So everybody knows that though he is, talking about big things, but in the end he is going to ask them some money. So actually he runs after people just for money. Look at, now imagine the kind of society here Oliver Goldsmith is talking about. There are no genuine people. People are just after your money. That's it. Nothing else. People are shallow here. People are not real, not genuine. They Rich people are, actually are not there. So even in fact their habits are very poor, very bad. So these fake people are everywhere in 18th century society. That's what Oliver Goldsmith is trying to showcase us. While his youth countenance the levity of his conduct, his countenance, his face, his character lacks this seriousness, this levity, respect for somebody. He is not a serious character. He may thus earn a precarious subsistence. You should know, meaning of subsistence means not even enough to, that much of money so that you can survive. So he earns a precarious, he may thus earn, he may in future, he may earn uncertain subsistence, means not even enough money to support himself. But when age comes on, when he will become old, the gravity of which is incompatible with buffoonery, when he won't be able to make people foolish, he will not be able to fool around, then what will happen? Then will he find himself forsaken by all, and then he will realize that he is actually forsaken by all. Everybody has left him alone. He is actually alone in this life, condemned in the decline of life to hang upon some rich family whom he once despised. So he has to actually depend on those people, those rich people whom he once hated, there to undergo all the ingenuity, there to undergo all the ingenuity of studied contempt, to be employed as a spy upon the servants, or a bugbear to fright the children into obedience. So here writer says that then he has to do such kind of works. What are those works? That he might have to become spy on servants, like he might get employed by some rich people who will ask him to be a spy on on their servants, or he has to become a bugbear. Bugbear means a annoying person, to frighten the children into obedience, in order to make future children become more obedient, disciplined. Adieu means goodbye. So here that's how this simple yet very insightful seminal essay is written by Oliver Goldsmith, where he showcases the kind of youth Augustine age had, and he satirizes those people by showcasing this figure who is actually a shallow man, who cannot afford a good life for himself, who is actually fake and shallow. Thank you for listening.